Hey folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. So earlier today I put up a video talking about the financial penalty that Chris Eubank Jr. has agreed to pay should he exceed the parameters of weight that he's allowed to rehydrate to pursuant to the rehydration clause that exists ahead of his fight with Conor Benn. And much has been spoken about rehydration clauses. I mentioned that Carl Frampton had spoken about it, and a number of other people have spoken about it as well. I won't go through the whole list. And it does appear that many people are concerned about rehydration clauses. And like I say, Dan Raphael was reporting that there's a $500,000 pre-agreed financial penalty that Chris Eubank Jr. will have to pay for every pound that he exceeds the pre-arranged limit to which he can rehydrate, which I believe is 10 pounds. So he has to weigh in at 160 and he can rehydrate to 170. If it's 171, that's a $500,000 penalty. And so the rehydration clause is the subject of much discussion amongst YouTube channels, boxing journalists, boxers, trainers, former boxers, etc. You know, all the great and the good are talking about this. And there's one question that's sort of not being asked directly. I mean, we've had much talk about Conor Benn's alleged failed drug tests, but we'd never really had a very fine point put on anyone's questioning of Conor Benn. I mean, the other day I raised some sort of off the top of my head questions that one would ideally ask Frank Warren about Frank Warren's withdrawal of Daniel Dubois from the fight with Joseph Parker. And I just sort of, they were in my mind, and so I asked them. Maybe one day a YouTube channel with access will cobble together very similar questions. But nobody has really asked Conor Benn a very simple question. Now we've alluded to it. I mean, most recently in the first press conference, Chris Eubank Jr. was giving Conor Benn the gears, as it were, about his egg consumption, and of course the egg slap on his face, which much was made about and was brilliant marketing, quite frankly, alluded to Conor Benn's consumption of eggs, which may or may not have sort of gone over the head of North American fans who possibly haven't followed this fight as closely as Brit fans have. But let me just back up the bus a little bit. As we know, on July the 25th, 2022, Conor Benn produced a sample to the VADA folks. On August the 23rd, 2022, VADA informed Benn and the WBC of what they call an adverse finding. They found in what was called the A sample a substance called clomiphene, and its hydroxy metabolites M1 and M2. And so we all sort of became quick learners of chemistry things, and we learned that clomiphene is a metabolic modulator. Specifically, it promotes testosterone production and boosts testosterone while burning fat. Sounds like a jolly good substance, to be perfectly honest. But it is clearly not permitted, certainly for boxers and probably for other athletic pursuits, because it gives somebody an edge. WBC eventually, after much back and forth, oh my goodness, the story went on for 2 years, and don't worry, I'm going to be very brief. At first, Conor Benn said the lab was contaminated. There was a B sample examined, and much lawyers back and forth. The only people to benefit out of this were the lawyers. I would venture to say that their billable hours allowed them all to send their kids to private school and no doubt pay off mortgages if indeed they had any, and no doubt acquire nice new cars for themselves and jewellery for their wives and girlfriends, or husbands and boyfriends, I suppose. The WBC eventually accepted a number of things. No conclusive evidence Benn knowingly ingested clomiphene. I would draw your attention to the wording, no conclusive evidence. Conclusive is an interesting word. I'm not sure, and I haven't been able to determine what the standard of proof was. Clearly it fell short of beyond a reasonable doubt. Did it? Was it balance of probabilities? I don't know. They found, the WBC this is, that there was no lab failures. So they gave the labs an absolute clean bill of health. And they accepted that Benn's elevated consumption of eggs raised a reasonable explanation for the adverse finding. And then that was it. We all move along, as it were. Nothing to see here. But no boxing journalist, to the best of my knowledge, no YouTuber, to the best of my knowledge, has asked Conor Benn the one very direct question. Mr. Benn, how did clomiphene get in your system? Question mark. And then Mr. Benn could say, I ate, 3 dozen eggs a day. And that's the best explanation I can proffer. And then we can, accept that at face value, or we could be skeptical about it depending upon you. But I wonder why nobody is actually pointedly asking him, tell us how clomiphene got into your system, sir. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be impolite. You don't have to be belligerent. You don't have to be aggressive. It's just a pointed question. And again, just like with Frank Warren, people are so skittish around him. People are not asking these direct questions. I remain very hopeful that Carl Froch, who apparently has an interview with Conor Benn, that Carl Froch will ask that very direct question. So, Mr. Froch, in the highly unlikely probability that you will watch this channel, but if you are watching this channel, sir, ask Mr. Benn, tell me, how did clomiphene get into your system? And then let him answer. It's not a difficult question to ask, and surely Carl Froch will be, sort of not intimidated in any way. He's very rich, and and I'm sure that even though he's been retired quite a few years, he could more than sufficiently capable of putting young Mr. Benn in his place should Mr. Benn get bolshy about the matter. Anyways, I remain hopeful that somebody will ask that question, because until that question is asked directly, we're left with Weasley type answers. And I think that Weasley type answers leave us all somewhat dissatisfied. Anyways, there's my 2 cents on the matter. I'm about to make myself some eggs for lunch, which hopefully will boost testosterone and cause me to lean down. On that note, I will see you on the next one. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.